to push an extreme agenda which we won't go for, that will produce only more poverty, more crime, more suffering. This includes radical efforts to defund, dismantle, and disband the police. They want to get rid of the police forces. They actually want to get rid of it. And that's what they do, and that's where they go. And you know that, because at the top position, there's not going to be much leadership. There's not much leadership left. Instead, we have to go the opposite way. We must invest more energy and resources in police training and recruiting and community engagement. We have to respect our police. We have to take care of our police. They're protecting us. And if they're allowed to do their job, they'll do a great job. And you always have a bad apple no matter where you go. You have bad apples. And there are not too many of them. And I can tell you there are not too many of them in the police department. We all know a lot of members of the police. I was listening today, and a friend of mine was on, very important person, said some of the best people he's ever met are policemen, law enforcement people. And they're taking care of people that in many cases they never even met before. And at great danger, at great risk. They get shot for no reason whatsoever other than they're wearing blue. They get knifed. You saw that the other night. It was a horrible thing. But there is no opportunity without safety. In Chicago, 48 people were shot and 18 people were killed in one day, Sunday, May 31st. Think of that. 48 people shot, 18 people killed. You don't hear about it too much. Every child should be able to grow up in a safe community, free from violence and fear. They've taken a lot of the police protection away in Chicago, and they have great, great police in Chicago. I know Chicago very well, but they're not allowed to do what they can do better than anybody. They could do the job very easily. Americans are good and virtuous people. We have to work together to confront bigotry and prejudice wherever they appear, but we'll make no progress and heal no wounds by falsely labeling tens of millions of decent Americans as racist or bigots. We have to get everybody together. We have to be in the same path, I think, Pastor. If we don't do that, we have problems, and we'll do that. We'll do it. I think we're going to do it very easily. It'll go quickly, and it'll go very easily. We have so many different elements of strength in this country. We have such potential in this country. We have the greatest potential. We have the greatest country in the world. But we get off subject. We start thinking about things that don't matter or don't matter much. And the important things we don't even discuss. But we're here to discuss some very important things today. Politicians make false charges, and they're trying to distract from their own failed records. They have some very bad records. And these are usually the ones that cause the problems or can't solve the problems. These are the same politicians who shipped our jobs away and took tremendous advantage of all Americans, but African American middle class. So much of that wealth and that money and those jobs went to China and other countries, and they get trapped. They get trapped. They get trapped in a government morass. They get trapped in bad government schools. So I'm going to be announcing 4 steps to build safety and opportunity and dignity. First, we're aggressively pursuing economic development in minority communities. We're doing it very powerfully. We've done it with opportunity zones, but we're going to go above that. At the heart of this effort is increasing access to capital for small businesses, and that's with minority owners in Black communities. And we're going to get it done, and it should have been done a long time ago. It's been very difficult. Very, very difficult for some people, been unfairly difficult. Second, we are confronting the healthcare disparities, including addressing chronic conditions and investing substantial sums in minority-serving medical institutions. We have medical institutions in some areas of our country that are a disgrace. I was going to say not up to standard. They're much worse than not up to standard. They're a disgrace. Take care of it. Third, we're working to finalize an executive order that will encourage police departments nationwide to meet the most current professional standards for the use of force, including tactics for de-escalation. Also, we'll encourage pilot programs that allow social workers to join certain law enforcement officers so that they work together. We'll take care of our police. We're not defunding police. If anything, we're going the other route. We're going to make sure that our police are well-trained, perfectly trained, to have the best equipment. that we have heard, because I know a lot of the people in the audience and they're professionals of what they do, and they're successful people, and we're hearing things that are not even thinkable. I've never even heard of this before last week. It was like, it started about a week ago where I heard they want to close up all police forces. That's what their attack on a very liberal governor in the state of Washington is. We want the police force closed. It's not like they want to sort of bring a little money into something else. They want it actually closed. I'm thinking, what happens late at night when you make that call to 911 and there's nobody there? What do you do? Whether you're white, black, or anybody else, what do? You're dialing and there's somebody breaking into a house and it happens to be a violent person. There are violent people around, Pastor. Even you will admit that, right? We want to think the best, but you have some very violent people. And when they're breaking into your house at 12 o'clock in the evening and you're sitting there and you don't have a police force, they're actually talking about not having a police force. Well, that's not happening with us. We're going to have stronger police forces because that's what you need. In Minneapolis, they went through 3 nights of hell, and then I was insistent on having the National Guard go in and do their work. It was like a miracle. It just, everything stopped. And I'll never forget the scene. It's not supposed to be a beautiful scene, but to me it was, after you watch policemen running out of a police precinct. And it wasn't their fault. They wanted to do what they had to do, but they weren't allowed to do anything. It wasn't really their fault, but they were running down the street. They weren't allowed to do what they're trained to do. And they took over the precinct. They essentially burned it down. I'm pretty good at construction. I want to tell you, that was almost what we call a complete renovation, if you're lucky. And it was a very sad thing. I don't think I've ever seen anything like that. But we are very proud of the fact that I called, I said, I'm sorry, we have to have them go in. And they went in, and it was like a knife cutting butter right through. I'll never forget, you saw the scene on that road where I met me in the city, Minneapolis. They were lined up, they just walked straight. And yes, there was some tear gas and probably some other things, and the crowd dispersed and they went through. By the end of that evening, and it was a short evening, everything was fine, and you didn't hear too much about that location having problems anymore. They went to other locations, and the same thing would happen. As an example, Seattle would be so easy to solve. We have a governor here of a great state. It's called Texas. He would solve it. As would other of your political leaders, including your lieutenant governor. They would solve it very easily. It's a lot of it's common sense. I don't even think it's courage. I think it's probably more courageous the other way, because I wouldn't want to be doing it the other way. It's very unsafe. So I just want to tell you that we're working on a lot of different elements having to do with law, order, safety, comfort, control. But we want safety, we want compassion, we want everything. What happened 2 weeks ago was a disgrace when you see them. What happened on numerous occasions over the last 2 weeks, people were killed. A number of people were killed, and it was very, very terrible and very, very unfair. A number of them were police officers. And it was a very unfair situation. We don't want to see that. And with strength, you wouldn't even have that. They wouldn't be in a position to do the kind of damage that they've done. They've destroyed people, they've destroyed businesses, they've destroyed African-American owned small businesses that hopefully they're going to come back. We're providing funding for a lot of small businesses, and hopefully we'll be able to get everybody online and get funding to be able to open up their stores and their small businesses again. But we're working to finalize an executive order that will encourage police departments nationwide to meet the most current professional standards of force. And that means force, but force with compassion. But if you're going to have to really do a job, if somebody's really bad, you're going to have to do it with real strength, real power. And I said, and people said, oh, I don't know if we like that expression. I said, we have to dominate the streets. You can't let that happen, what happened in New York City, the damage they've done. You have to dominate the streets. And I was was criticized for that statement. I made the statements, we have to dominate the street. And they said, oh, that's such a terrible thing. Well, guess what? You know who dominated the streets? People that you don't want to dominate the streets. And look at the damage they did. So I'll stick with that. And I think most of the people in this room, maybe every person in this room will stick with that. And we're doing it with compassion. If you think about it, we're dominating the street with compassion because we're saving lives and we're saving businesses. We're saving families from being wiped out after working hard for 20 and 30 years. I saw the one woman, she worked 35 years building a store, and one night it was totally wiped out. It's terrible. And fourth, we're renewing our call on Congress to finally enact school choice now. School choice is a big deal. Because access to education is the civil rights issue of our time, and I've heard that for the last, I would say, year, but it really is. It's the civil rights issue of our time. When you could have children go to a school where their parents want them to go, and it creates competition, and other schools fight harder because all of a sudden they say, wow, we're losing it, we have to fight harder, it gets better. So many different ways, but there are groups of people against that. You have unions against it, you have others against it, and they're not against it for the right reasons. They're against it for a lot of the wrong reasons, and we're going to get that straight. Now, we've done a lot of it. We've had tremendous success with choice. We had choice in a lot of ways. We also had choice in the military. You know, before I came here, the vets would wait on line, Pastor. They'd be waiting. It wouldn't be acceptable to you. I know it wouldn't be acceptable to the bishop. I know it's going to be acceptable to you. They'd wait for 4 or 5 weeks to get online, a vet, where they were sick, they were feeling badly, and they'd get online and they'd say there's a 6-day wait, sir. There's a 2-week wait, there's a 1-month wait. And you'd have people online that weren't very ill, and they'd be terminally ill before they got to see a doctor. They died. And for years and years, they've been trying to get veterans' choice. That means if you can't get to a doctor reasonably quickly, you go outside, you go to a local doctor around where you live, and the government pays the bill. And by the way, it sounds expensive. It's very cheap by comparison. It's actually much better. Now, most importantly, we take care of our vets. By far most importantly. But it's one of those many cases where it's actually less costly and better. Sometimes you'll see a building, it costs less money than another building that costs more because the one that built the one that costs more, this one looks better. The one that's cheaper, it looks better. They say, how much more did you spend for that building? Actually, we spent less. You can do that. It's called, you have to know what you're doing. If you know what you're doing. That's only good for the real estate people in here, of which there are plenty, by the way. So I just want to thank everybody. This is a tremendous place. This is a great city. This is a great, great city, and with tremendous people and tremendous pride. And I say the same for the state of Texas. You know, your governor came to me and he said, when you had your bad hurricane 2 years ago, I gave so much money to Texas, more. He kept coming, more. How about here? So finally, you know that we took good care of Texas. Is that right? We took such good care of Texas. They were looking for the next hurricane. They said, when's the next? But they had a big one. And they say you had the largest water dump ever. It just didn't stop. It came in, and you thought it was gone, and then it went back out, and it reloaded, right? And it happened 3 times. And your governor came and he wanted to build a barrier so the water would hit the barrier, wouldn't come into certain parts of Texas. He called me and said, sir, I just have one more request. This is after we gave $28 billion. So $28 billion. I mean, we watch the pennies, but when it comes to Texas, we don't watch them too closely. Okay? And he said, Governor Abbott, he said, just one more request, and it's a very small one, sir. We have a way of building a wall. It goes up and down, it moves with the tides. I said, that sounds expensive to me. It moves with the tides, and it's not a lot of money. Could I ask you to do me one small favor and approve it? I said, how much is it? Sir, it's only $10 billion. And I said, start working on it, right? I said, start working on it, because we can do things to get rid of those. You get hit pretty hard here. They get hit pretty hard here, don't they? Were you affected very much when you had during the hurricanes itself?
We had a lot of people who were displaced that came to this area.
Yeah. Well, we took good care of everybody. So I just want to say this is one of my favorite places. I know we're doing very well here. During the last process, they kept saying that Texas is too close to call. And friends of mine in Texas say, it's not too close to call, you're going to win in a landslide. And I said, well, they keep saying that. One man got on television, actually, he said, I don't know where you come from, but I don't think this is too close to call. I think he's going to win by a lot. And we won by a lot. It was 8 o'clock, and the polls were closed, and they said, Donald Trump has won the state of Texas. And he said it simultaneously. So, and we're doing good here again. But, you know, one of the things I have to say, because this is big oil territory, I think we've done a fantastic job of bringing back the oil in a rapid fashion. That looked pretty bad. Pretty bad. You had a case, you had a couple of hours where if you bought a barrel of oil, you bought it for $37, as if they gave you 37, okay? There's never been a thing like that ever. Now I see that it's getting close to $40 a barrel and you're back in business, and we got it done fast, and we got Russia together with Saudi Arabia, and they cut production and they got it back fast, and we're very, very proud of it. The supply changed rapidly with COVID-19 or whatever you want to call it. I'd never heard so many names. You've got 30 names you can call this thing. Well, I call it the plague from China. The plague. And it's not good. It's not good. And it could have been stopped. It could have been stopped in China, but they decided not to do that. And we'll have to figure that one out, won't we? So I just want to thank everybody very much for being here. This is a very spectacular place, and I want to introduce Attorney General Barr and Secretary Carson to say a few words, along with the Surgeon General, who has been a real young star in the administration. And please, if I could, Bill, take over, please. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you for convening this discussion. And I'd like to thank the many impressive leaders, civic leaders, religious leaders, and colleagues from law enforcement who are here. That ghastly spectacle in Minneapolis was really jarring to the whole nation, and it forced us to confront and think about, reflect on long-standing issues in our nation. Those issues obviously relate to the relationship between law enforcement and the African American community. But just to step back a little and take a broader view initially, I've been thinking about how do we achieve the full American dream for all communities, African American communities, all communities. And one of the reasons I'm proud to serve in this administration is because I think the president is moving forward on the critical elements necessary to provide and ensure that opportunity. First and foremost, economic growth. Without growth, there is no opportunity. Second, education. I think Condi Rice said a few years ago, it's the civil rights issue of our time, because without a good education, we are not allowing our young people to seize their opportunities and pursue their dreams. And as the president mentioned, it's only by empowering parents and giving them the power to choose the education for their children that we're ever going to be able to obtain that. Third, I think, is moral discipline. And our young people, they have to have the discipline to seize the opportunity, to make momentary sacrifices for later gain. And traditionally, that has come, and people can find it perhaps from many sources, but traditionally that has come from religion, which our founders believed was the foundation of our republic.